Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. If you didn't know, the update Groundbreaking is coming out tomorrow, and I am going to be streaming early in the morning, probably around 2 or 3 a.m. PST, and we're going to go through some of the new stuff that is in the update. And obviously, before an update is released, normally you get a data mine of the dev server because it gets updated to where the update is going to be. So we have one from 2.10.0.31 to 2.11.0.9, and this is probably going to be the final release version of the game when it comes to live server tomorrow, at least for me, and today for some of you. Obviously, as usual, thank you to Zabby for providing this information. I'll leave links in the description to the information yourself so you can have a look at it and see what is going on. There's a bunch of changes, not just to BRs, but also to stuff such as decorations and decals, and a bunch of different things that is being added, including loadouts for specific vehicles. So we're going to go through all of these things and have a look at what is going on. So this basically is the final hurrah before the before the update comes out, and there is a lot of stuff to go through. And in order to be up, we're going to go through it quickly. So the new text that they've added, we've got automatically activate orders in battle that expires in less than X time. So it looks like they're going to put in an automatic feature for orders. So instead of them just expiring, you use them, which is pretty good. Keep destroyed units, which is quite nice. And also enable laser designator before launch. Stop terraforming for hull aiming, which is obviously for the cheese wedge. Suspension moving is blocked by active terraforming, so actually your hydropneumatic suspension might get blocked by the terraforming. The ANAPR 27 and then the MK258. Now the ANAPR 27 is a radar, obviously. It might actually be a countermeasure, but I'm pretty sure it's an RWR or it's something like that. I need to really read up on all of these things, but it's one of those electronic systems when it comes to American vehicles. And they've also changed a bit of text when it comes to the friends invite, so we're going to have to see what that does for it in the future. They've also changed the liberation of Carentan to the liberation of Carentan spelt correctly. And this was one of the weird things that was going on. The ground mission they added for Carentan. Now I was trying to find out what Carentan is, because it's Karantan, but now they've changed it to Carentan, which is what I thought it was, but I'm guessing the K version is it in maybe a different language. Carentan is obviously a city in northeast France. It was one of the big battles when it comes to World War II and the invasion of Normandy by the unified Allied forces, and it was a hell of a battle between the Americans and the Germans. Carentan was one of those places which was very key to take because it was basically a crossroads for many main roads. So if this place was not taken, then what would end up happening is it would create a blockage of supplies and also vehicles and transport and pretty much everything from the beaches themselves, meaning that the Allied forces won't be able to move inland. It's one of those battles which is looked at quite a lot when it comes to history, and I'm guessing they're going to do something with that when it comes to a ground mission, whether it's World War mode, whether it's some other thing, maybe it's a PvE thing, whatever it is, I would love to see it because it's a really cool piece of history. Then they changed the name of the 8cm rockets, which are coming on the Israeli Spitfire. Then there's a new naval decoration, and it's actually a scarecrow, which looks pretty awesome. You'll be able to get it on your naval machines, and I suppose that will be for Halloween. They also added track grousers. Now, if you don't know what track grousers are, basically, you know how you have Ostketten and Winterketten for the Germans? Well, grousers were a way that mainly stuff such as tanks in the Allied side of things extended their tracks. So Stuff like Sherman's had them, and it basically did the same thing as the Osketten, so widening the tracks, give them a little bit more traction, lose a little bit of speed, but it means that you can actually be able to go and, traverse a little bit of rough areas. This is also going to be a new modification, so this could actually be put on a ton of tanks, just like the Osketten and Winterketten, so we're going to have to see how this is going on. I'll just read the Wikipedia for Grousers, just so you can get an idea of it if I didn't explain it the best. Grousers are devices intended to increase the traction of continuous tracks, especially in loose materials such as soil or snow. This is done by increasing contact with the ground with protrusions similar to conventional tire treads and analogous to athletes' cleated shoes. On tanks and armored vehicles, grousers are usually pads attached to the tracks, but on construction vehicles they may take the form of flat plates or bars. So, as we talked about, just there to increase traction, which should be quite fun. They actually have also now added the T26E5 into the US tech tree. It's now moved after the M4A3 E276, so it's looking like it's going to be a tech tree vehicle, which is pretty cool. The ZTZ591 is also no longer hidden, so it looks like that's going to be a premium brought into the game. They changed some of the stat cards for a few vehicles. Obviously, stat cards are not great at representing how useful a vehicle is in the game, but at the same time, they give a little bit of information about stuff. There was also some BR changes, so the French F6F5, the Hellcat, is going from 3.7 to 3.3 in RB. I'm pretty sure that means it's now the same as the one in the American tree, since that one was moved down recently. It might have been the 5N that was moved down, I can't specifically remember. The B17G and GAN1 in Simulator are both getting moved down from 6.7 to 6.3. The A4E, the Israeli variant, is getting moved down in arcade battles from 9.0 to 8.0, so quite a big change there. The Jaguar GR1A is getting moved across all game modes from 10.7 to 10.0, so it looks like they don't put too much faith when it comes to the flares on that thing, and the guided bombs. Looks like it's going to be very similar to the GR1. The AJ37, the attacker Viggen that is coming in, it's going from 10.7 to 10.3. I think that's fine. The Panzerbill M40, the Battle Pass vehicle from last Battle Pass, is going from 1.3 to 1.7. And then the Dardo, the new one with the Hit Fist 30, it's going down in BR from 10.0 to 9.7, which I think is fine. It didn't really make sense to me that the VCC 80 was that far up in BR compared to the standard Dardo. I actually don't think it's that much of a difference comparing it. It's just a slightly bigger gun and not as impressive fire rate, so don't think that's going to change too much. The A4E, they've changed some of the economy stuff on it, and they've also changed a bunch of loadouts. Well, they haven't changed a bunch of loadouts for stuff, but what they've done is they've changed their reward multipliers. They've actually decreased a lot of them across the board when it comes to bombers and stuff like that. You can actually have a look at the changelog for the dev servers, and I'm sure we'll have a look at the overall changelog for the update, and we'll see the differences when it comes to the amount of research and SO you can make from certain actions, because they have increased some and massively decreased others. So that's something which is going on. They've also changed a bunch of coefficients for repair costs depending on what modifications you have, and also changed how much GE certain modifications cost, and also some RP costs. The reason for this is because they're adding more modifications to certain vehicles, and the more modifications that you add to something, the cheaper the RP cost is for each individual modification, and then maybe also GE, so that's something they're doing. They've also added some new effects to the game, so you've got digging, spotlight huge, field light huge, field light blue huge, field light orange huge, and field light medium. I'm wondering if that's to do with a hangar or an event that may be coming up, which might be quite cool. They've added some new loading screens for the PT-7657, that's obviously for the Battle Pass, the Jaguar A, and also the Centurion Avery, which will be for this update. They've re-added some World War Mode loading screens, so the Kirk Eltigan one, and also the Vikepsk one, so maybe that's going to come back soon. We'll have to see. World War Mode hasn't been heard of for a while, which is, kind of interesting to see what they're doing with that. And then also they have brought in the Halloween hanger. That's going to be available when this thing launches. Also, they've changed which premiums are shown basically in the hanger so people can have a look at them, and also the ones which are flying around the hanger. So for USSR, instead of MiG-17, it's going to be MiG-15 BIS. Same for China, and then Israel, it's going to be the A4E as well. They've also added dead versions of hanger soldiers. I'm guessing that's for Halloween? Maybe they're going to be skeletons? Who knows? Anything's possible. But yeah, it sounds pretty fun. But some of the other changes, it seems a little bit odd, because the A4E, now I don't know whether this is supposed to be the Israeli one, or if this is just the standard one, but they've changed its cannons from 20mm Mark 12s to 30mm DEFAs. So if this is the American one, then it's getting new guns, the 30mm, and also it's getting a bunch of new loadouts. It's going to get the walleyes plus other bombs, so you can bring 3 1,000-pounders and 2 walleyes, the AGM-62As. I've got a feeling that this might be for the Israeli one, but if this is for the American one, then the Israeli one is already outclassed by the American one, because the American one also has bullpups. The A7E also, it now has the AN/APR 25. Its thermals have actually on its like gun camera, well, its bomb camera thing is going from Gen 2 to Gen 1, so it's going to be a little bit harder to use. And now it has a new loadout with 5 AGM-62A ERs, 2 AIM-9Ds or Gs, and then the FLIR as well, so should mean aiming is a little bit easier. The F4E is also getting the AGM-62As, so we're giving a bunch of stuff walleyes. We'll see if they are useful or not. I still think other weapons will be more useful than them, even though they look pretty cool. And also the F100D has an RWR added as a Tier 1 mod, the AN/APR 25. The IL-242 for Germany, its bombs now drop separately, which is quite nice. And the MiG-23M, the countermeasures have been changed to large ones. The MiG-23M LD, the R60Ms, have actually been changed to R60s in all loadouts, so it won't have as crazy missiles, and the RWR was also changed, and it gets itself a new cockpit. The Jaguar GR1A, the gunner and pilot NVDs were removed, the GBU-12 mod was removed, and also the sight thermal resolution was halved. So that sucks. It's definitely one of those vehicles which is getting hit in the face. And also the F4E JCai, another vehicle that is getting battered. It's losing its JDAM, so it's GBU-38, and that kind of sucks for it. The CW21 is improving in some areas, but the main issue is that it's increasing in weight, and since it has to be a nimble fighter, that's a bit rough for it. The V12D should fly a little better. It flew literally like a bus when it came to the dev server, so hopefully it's slightly better for it. I'm hoping so. The sight thermal for the Jaguar A was changed from thermals to NVDs, which is not good for it. And also the gunner and pilot NVD was removed from it. The radar was changed on the Mirage 3E to the Serrano 2, and the AJ-37 had its radar changed as well, with the Israeli A4E also having some changes, basically once again giving it the loadouts of the walleyes, plus the bombs, plus the missiles. So as the largest bomb load, it can carry 3 1,000-pounds, 2 AGM-62As, which are the walleyes, and then 2 AIM-9Bs. So that thing is going to be heavy as a bus, but still should be useful. They've also added in the early Israeli pilots, which is pretty cool. Before it was just an RAF pilot, now it should be an Israeli one, so that's awesome. And for a lot of helicopters, they've actually changed their stock loadouts to include some pretty hefty missiles. So the H-1G now has AGM-114Bs for a stock loadout, the H-64s, AH-64D has access to 114Ks as its initial loadout. The UH Tiger gets the Hot 3s, the K-52 and Mi-28N get the 9M120s, the attackers, and the Mi-28NM gets it too, gets the attackers as the standard stock loadout. So a lot of the helicopters are getting much better stock loadouts, so they're going to be easier to grind for people to go through. The T-26E5, it also is getting a much better upper front plate, which makes sense. It wasn't modeled before, so it's going up by 50 millimeters, so that's going to be really rough to pen. The lower front plate is going up by around about 25 millimeters as well, which would be quite nice, and the weight of it is going up by about 4 tons. So we talked about this on the dev server. The T-26E5 is a heavy machine without an engine upgrade, so it's going to be kind of like the Super Pershing. Pretty slow, but it doesn't get the extra gun. The gun is exactly the same, which kind of sucks for it. They screwed with the two S-25's armor as well. The upper front plate is going up by 10 millimeters, while the lower front plate is going down by 7. And the radar antenna speed of the Stormer has been multiplied by 10. So that is going to be insanely fast, which should be quite fun. The Istavar gets some ammo storages, or as I like to call them, ammo racks. And the ZTQ-62, it can now reload its smoke barrels, which is lovely. They also added some changes for the ZTZ-59-1. They made it slightly worse by removing APHE-BC and the APCR, the BR-412. They also gave it smoke grenades though, so that's kind of nice, but generally it's not going to be that useful. The Leopard 1A5 and the SCRV 121, they had dozers modeled on the dev server, but they didn't work. Now they do have the modification for it. They also changed the armor on the breech of the Dardo Hit Fist 30. It's gone from 145 millimeters to 14, so that should be easily penned now compared to before. And the AMX-13 FL11 and the EBR-75 FL11 gets access to a smoke shell now and some HE, and also M72 AP, so we're going to have to see how well that is. The rounds before were pretty fun. My guess is these won't be as good. A bunch of battleships and cruisers got some increase in protection. The Raleigh, Detroit, and Trenton, obviously, all in the same class. They got a little bit increased stuff. The destroyers, frigates, gunboats, and minesweepers, their hull has actually been decreased by 5 millimeters, which kind of sucks. The Graf Spee's gone down very slightly, but the Marlborough has increased a lot when it comes to its armor and its capabilities of being, staying alive. They've added shell animations for the FIM-92E and the FIM-92K. These are the stingers on the Ocelot, the Type 91, and also the HN6 also get them, which is pretty cool. Naval weapons also get changed. Some changes to the 37s, 45s, 76, and 120s, and 130s, 152s. A ton of different changes across the board, so we're going to have to see how those work out. When it comes to missiles, they have changed them a decent amount when it comes to actually being able to be detected, and also countermeasures being detected as well. And they've once again buffed the R-24T, which is the new missile for the MiG-23 MLD. Its lock-on range in rear aspect is now up by 10 kilometers, so it's at 25 kilometers now. Its lock-on range and all aspect is now 4.3 kilometers, and the max lock range is now 100 kilometers instead of 20, which is nuts. They've also added a new bonus, which is user mission access. I'm guessing you'll have to get to a certain level to be able to unlock them now. They've added some new decals, so a Halloween 2021 decal, 9 years decal, and 9 years roundel. Those will be obviously for the anniversary, which is about to come around the corner. And then you've also got a new loading screen for 9 years, and they fixed some of the Battle Pass challenges, because one of them, the Glutinous Catfish one, the Challenge 1, its end date was actually in 2022, next year. So somebody literally screwed up by putting a 2 instead of a 1. And then the Swift Eel can no longer be done in air battles, so you have to do it in naval battles. And then Challenge 10, it can no longer be done in air or naval battles. So this is the one-shot award. So you're going to have to do it in ground anyway, but now you are forced to do it in ground. So a ton of changes. We're going to have to see what the update is like tomorrow. Hopefully everything works well and we have no issues. And as always, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Professor X 1718, Orange Tail, Sakoshi Tiger, BRFC 15, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe A, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, and then Kyle Kin, Barine, Lafouche, and also Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.